Hello, welcome to our first podcast series. So this is me, I'm Ken, a neuroscientist from Pel Consulting, and this is my business partner, Pasha.
Hiya. So we've both been doing our own things in our careers for many years now, and
Yes.
you've been doing what for the past couple of years?
Gamification, as well as applying gamification in like application and workplace and things like that.
And you'll be working with sort of psychology and everything as well. That's
Yes,
right.
yes. So my background is in neuroscience and psychology. So I use both insights from both of these fields to create specialized solutions for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have developed personality tests from my research
Yeah.
in sensory perception and motivation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. And I basically met him through some of the events that I hosted, and I've been in the technology sector for many years, and I have a huge interest in sort of human psychology and neuroscience as well.
Yeah.
Not from a very formal academic perspective, but more of an interest as a human in sort of hacking my own mind and sort of learning about human behavior. So
Mm.
yeah, so we basically met, and here we are, and we're going to do a little podcast, talk about whatever comes up in our heads, and essentially share knowledge with everyone. So here we go.
Yeah.
And I think one of the first things I wanted to talk about for the past couple of days is about that thing which you just mentioned, which is gamification.
Mm.
We usually consider work and play as polar opposites, right? We
Yes.
usually say work hard, play hard, as if they're two different things which cannot mutually, live
Coexist.
together or
Mm.
coexist. So,
Mm.
what is the whole point of gamification at the workplace?
Right. From the workplace perspective, right?
Yeah.
So gamification, the definition of it is applying game design or game-like motivation in a non-game setting, so in real life setting. So video games have a lot of game design that sort of motivate players to improve their skills, to improve their rank if they're a part of a social hierarchy of sorts,
Mm-hmm.
or they improve their trying out more difficult challenges and things
Yeah.
like that. So the game systems motivates in a specific way using a lot of incentives and a lot of rewards. So what I do is I see how these designs in video games and how I can apply in a workplace setting, a workplace environment.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I do it is I ask my employer, right? So I've developed, first of all, I developed a motivation map of the brain.
Okay.
So motivation map of the brain maps basically like what's the difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivations are like money, security, your accomplishment,
Right.
progress, and
Okay.
accomplishment, like status, higher status, things like that. Something that you want to get from external to you,
Mm-hmm.
and then to improve yourself, basically. And then the more intrinsic motivation is you do it because you enjoy doing them, right? When you're motivated by curiosity, social connection, or meaning, or purpose,
Mm-hmm.
as well as creativity. So these are different kinds of motivation that my motivation map, the brains sort of create in a sort of 8 core motivation model, and then I show them to my employer, to my client, like, okay, what kind of motivation that you want to encourage in your workers, right, in your in your employees, and then they can pick and choose, or they can interview the employees and how they're motivated by, and from that they can pick like, oh, okay, I want to be motivated by social connection, progress, and accomplishment. And then okay, so we got the motivation, and then I look at actual video games. I go to video games, how like popular games like Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect, or some or Call of Duty, how these games encourage those motivations. So social
Mm-hmm.
connection motivations,
Incentivize. Yeah.
incentivizing those motivations, and then I sort of take those designs and then I re-implement them, and I sort of inspire by and create something new
Mm-hmm.
for that specific context of my client. And then we always work together, right, and how to create that, and then create a system in which the employees feel engaged, and they feel that they're improving themselves. They feel like they're being rewarded in a way that they feel appreciated
Yeah.
for the work they do. So it from that, after we implement those, it usually increase workers' engagement or interest in the work by 50 to 100%. So
Mm-hmm.
basically doubling
Okay. Wow.
the interest.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what kind of incentives exist in the real world which can be as attractive as a game?
I mean, many incentives are like climbing status, right? So that's more like intangible, but
Mm-hmm.
you can feel it when someone's like in a higher status than you are. But in a corporate world, right, if you have a higher, managerial titles, like you're a manager or chief manager or whatever, like you instantly put up in a hierarchy, and then that climbing that hierarchy is a motivation in itself.
Of course. So that's like sort of promotions and
things
getting
like
paid more or something like that. But what are the things that you suggest employers or clients to sort of implement in their companies?
Right. So the way I do is like you can create something like, for example, leaderboards that games create.
Okay.
So leaderboards, and then how to encourage leaderboards and people that creates like a little bit of sense of competition, as well as like having a more not too serious leaderboard, but like something more fun that they can develop.
I think the first thing that popped into my head when you said leaderboard is me thinking about games and how competitive it becomes and how easily it can go out of hand if it's not sort of kept in a healthy manner,
healthy, playful manner. Because we don't want to make it so that the leaderboard itself become the point. The leaderboard is just like a way to engage,
right?
Not
so sort of stay
itself.
parallel to your normal work, and
that's right.
Okay, cool. So there's a point in also not having the incentive so good that that starts to become the more important motive. You want to keep it sort of out of the way
very much,
and still sort of triggering those feelings, but at the same time not really turning into the primary goal or primary aim, basically.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
And then also create like an upgrade system, just like many video games, you upgrade level 2, level 3, level 4. What are the requirements to upgrade them? So like in real life, you can call it promotion, but this is much more fun. Like they get it more often.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done some. I've worked with some cloud softwares where the training system of it is completely available to the public. And when you go through doing the trainings and sort of completing the exercises or workshops, you start getting badges.
That's right.
And then when you collect those badges, you get a super badge because you collected 10 or 15 or whatever the number is. So and there are employers which are actively choosing based on the number of badges as well. It's one of the I've seen job descriptions where they said you need at least 50 badges in this training, and things like that. So it has become a very important part. And there are, because of that, I think there's actually, I know a few people who've actually gone through trainings just to pick up badges. Like there's literally lists you can find online where you can find out which trainings are the simplest to do to get just to
gaming the system, right?
Just to pad the number of badges you have. So so very quickly you can go into that. So it's really difficult to keep that balance, but I think that badge system is definitely very attractive. So even when I was not, even if I didn't have a need to learn it, I was motivated to learn it just to get the next badge because it was going to unlock a super badge or something like that. So,
Many applications also start to use gamification now. One of the best ones is like Audible. So Audible is like it's the audio books sort of software app. So from Amazon. So they put like if you listen for 50 hours, 100 hours, you get a badge.
Right.
So if you listen to every Saturday, you get a Saturday badge or something along those lines. It's really cool. Like when you can become creative with those, and then so it allows people to engage with your app in a way they wouldn't normally engage in a habitual way. So for them, if they want to get badges and then see the feeling of completion.
I haven't used Audible yet, but I've definitely used sort of Babbel, which is for learning.
Like many language apps use it now too.
And it makes a lot of sense in the language apps because it's all about that consistency of daily, 10, 20 minutes. And it makes sense from a learning perspective, and it's very sort of motivating, and it lets people automatically keep track. So even if their logical mind or sort of the learning mind might have stopped caring about it, their sort of fun aspect will still kind of maybe remind them that, oh, I need to get that thing today. And just go through it. So it adds extra reasons to go back to it.
Extra reinforcement, engagement to do it. And then also fitness apps do it as well. Right?
Absolutely.
To encourage you to walk more, jump more, etc.
I mean, I think they already have leaderboards and everything. So
my mom got really obsessed with those.
It's a good thing to be obsessed with.
She started holding the phone and walking in the house just to get those extra steps.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
Those can become too good.
Okay, cool.
So like the the reason why they work is something called reinforcement schedules. So
Okay.
in psychology, have
Okay.
you heard about them?
No, not really.
Yeah, so reinforcement schedules are basically it's from behavioral science
Okay.
reason. So there are different kinds of reinforcement. So you can say proportional reinforcement, where well, let's say you do 10 actions and then you get rewarded for that action.
Okay.
Right? And then you can do you do 10 actions, but
Mm-hmm.
randomly you get rewarded during those 10. So you get rewarded probably on the 7th action or the
Right.
second action, right? So it's more that's called variable schedule. So you get rewarded in a random way. So
Wouldn't that make people anxious or something?
in a game, for example, let's say you kill a monster, like you kill the 20 monster, but the 11th monster drops something that you want.
Right.
But the other the same monster but doesn't drop.
Yeah,
but it only drops on randomly.
I mean, yeah, I've definitely played games which do that.
Yeah. So you will just keep killing hundreds of them.
Yeah, just hoping for the next.
Yeah, just hoping for the next.
Okay,
and then there's intermittent schedule. So that's basically like how often you do it, right? So
not about how many you've done so far. It's more about your own regularity. Not regularity, but just if you just keep doing it regularly, it'll just keep popping down for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So when some games are really, really engaging because they put these reinforcement schedule one on top of another.
Okay.
And so that just when you start to finish one part of your reward, you get the reward from one part of it. Another schedule creates another action for another engagement for you to do.
Right.
So let's say you just level up to level 20, let's say.
Yeah.
But then your equipment level is close to finishing.
Right.
So now you want to do the equipment level.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I know that from like some FPS games that I play where you have to start using a gun first, and then once you start using that weapon, you are then able to unlock accessories for that weapon.
Yeah.
And I, for example, usually have one favorite sight or something, so I go for that straight. But then as soon as I unlock it, it tells me that I'm 70% done with the next thing that I also want.
Yeah.
And then once I'm done with that, it tells me I'm 80% done with the next thing. So
that's right. Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like I'm working hard for the next thing. It's like, I need to do a little bit more, and that's it, kind of thing.
And you can go into the
that's
go into the
thing.
Vortex of like playing for hours.
Yeah.
If you it can be really, really engaging.
Absolutely, yeah. So how would you implement something like that in real life?
So
like
that
real world example.
Yeah, so that become quite complex. So a lot of fine tuning is required because you are basically managing.
Of course, and there's lots of variables.
People are different the way they engage with it. So first, we do the similar thing with the motivations as well. So what motivation that you want to try out, curiosity motivation, narrative motivation, whatever. And then from that, I create these different kinds of schedules, as I said, like normal schedule, proportional schedule, variable schedule, intermittent. And then I try to put on top of one another. So let's say this, right? So you want to, let's say a company, and then you see a lot of employees are being late to work, but you want to make sure that they come to work on time.
Yeah.
Right. But how do you do that? Right. So now that is about timekeeping. So you want to put in a reward for them to come in on time, and then if they come in on time, let's say 5 days in a row, then they get a reward. Right. Or if they come in on time 3 days within those 5 days, they get another reward randomly.
Right.
During it.
Right. I can imagine something like if you do it 10 days in a row, you get maybe a £5 reward, for example.
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
And then if you hit 15 consecutive days, you get £10.
Yeah.
But you can't do that without getting the £5 one first, right?
Yeah.
So you can keep getting bigger rewards if you have a longer streak of good behavior or be expected or acceptable
even
behavior.
During that you get rewarded randomly.
Yeah.
On the 7 days, 8 day, you get a different kind of reward. It's like, oh wait, thank you.
Okay, So I think that's fair enough. So there's so many incentives which are given out usually in financial senses or holidays and things like that.
Yeah. So those kinds are extrinsic rewards. Yeah. So those ones those ones are easy to implement, but if you want to have long-term engagement, those are not as effective. So more intrinsic rewards are much more effective. For example, like people, for example, want to feel respected by their peers.
Yeah.
So you can put in like the respect hierarchy,
Right.
respect leaderboard,
Respect or sort of appreciation,
appreciation
like
leaderboard.
regular.
So
Yeah.
whoever comes in on time on a specific
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
it goes up, and then it also created some sort of like interesting dynamic between them. Or you can another fun thing they do is that
Punctuality
someone who
rating.
doesn't do it,
Uh-huh.
they're given a rubber duck on top of their table.
Okay.
So it's like a little fun sort of embarrassment. You're the
Right.
rubber duck for the day,
Yeah.
right? So that's another intrinsic reward. But people don't want to have the rubber duck on their table, right?
Yeah.
So then people,
Yeah.
you're late today, So that
Okay.
kind of little like that's a type of gamification
Cool. Yeah.
as well.
I mean, I'm imagining working in a workplace like that. It sounds pretty fun.
It's funny.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
And gamification is also very effective in for children, like parenting.
Of course.
Very much so. Yeah, because children are like they cannot speak, like children younger than 10, like they're still learning the language. They still have to manage their emotions, and they lose control of their emotions. Some of them are naughty, some of them are doesn't listen to you. But if you want, and some of them don't clean, right, things like that. But if you want to have a child that's well behaved, well structured child, you need to put in incentives for them to do the thing that you want them to do, right?
Yeah.
Cleaning or eating by themselves, or or not shouting in public, things like that. Those actions are socially acceptable, so that you don't dislike them over time, because you can start to dislike your child if they start to become really annoying.
Yeah, I think that's a very key thing which parents don't usually admit, which is every parent is going to say, yes, I love my children. I mean, they definitely love their children most of the time, and they definitely have a very selfless, unconditional kind of love towards them. But that is different from liking and disliking your child.
Definitely.
And it's really hard and usually impossible for most parents to admit if they like a child more or anything like that, or don't like a child's behavior or particular behaviors. And it very quickly, if it's not nipped in the bud early on, it can very easily start turning into almost a grudge or a thing that you just ignore and hate about your child. And you're fine with them when they're doing everything else, and then when they do that behavior, you're kind of just trying to not pay attention to it, or trying to block it out. Because it makes you like them less or something like that. So I mean,
like throwing a tantrum.
Throwing a tantrum.
Tesco, for example.
Absolutely. And of course, the first few times it happens, the parents will try to figure it out, try to help the child and stuff. But if they don't have the right tools to do it, then very quickly it turns into a thing my child does. And when the child does it, the best you can do is just, okay, I guess we just wait for this phase that I don't like to pass. But when they don't have the abilities or the knowledge to deal with that correctly early on, not only will the parents start to increase that frustration internally, but also the child will probably continue that behavior and not learn that that's something which is going to be really bad for that relationship in the future. So
they will not put proper boundaries. Those behaviors are not acceptable in the long run.
And for children, I mean, there are no boundaries for children in automatically. They're not going to be born with any boundary at all. The only things a newborn baby is born with is sort of the fear of a loud noise and maybe scared of heights, and that's it. Other than that, every other fear is from the environment they live in, the life they live. And so they're going to try everything. They're going to try screaming, shouting. They're going to try every possible option that is available to them. And it's up to the parents or the guardians or the people around them to basically tell them and set those boundaries. This is allowed, this is not allowed. And if that's not done at an early stage, it can very easily be a mix of good and very bad as well. So
I mean, we're essentially animals, so we have to be socialized, especially when they're young, when children are young. And you can do it with using gamification, or you can put in a, let's say you put in calendar. If you clean every day on that calendar, if you reach 10 days, they get a little toy as a reward. Or if they throw a tantrum in one of those days, that cleaning for that day is not acknowledged. A black star or not acknowledged. Things like that, so the child can see okay, maybe I shouldn't do that next time.
Yeah.
Right. So
and I think I mean, a black star may be almost on the point of negative, but if it's purely a type of incentive where it slows down their positive progress,
it
I
slowed
think,
down the positive
yeah,
rewards.
exactly.
Yeah, which is
So
is a
so
punishment
if
itself.
they get, you know, some reward after 5 days of good behavior of in a particular thing, or, you know, clean the room or something,
Yes.
then if they don't clean the room, or, you know, they you know, participate in any behavior which is bad,
Yeah.
and if they know about it, of course, then, you know, in that case, their progress would be delayed rather than get a punishment or something like that. So yeah,
The delaying of progress itself is a punishment.
yeah, exactly,
Right?
exactly.
They will feel pain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it doesn't come in as a negative.
That's right.
It's not
Yeah.
directly negative. They
Yeah.
might feel like, oh, I thought I would get the chocolate on Friday, but I'm not going to get it because I did that thing yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be a parent coming in and saying, no more chocolates for you. You know,
Yeah.
that's a direct negative compared to
Right,
them realizing that, oh, I did that, which is what delayed this, and so let me just fix it. You know, that's an easy thing for them to come across, rather
Yes.
than, you know, any kind of resentment or anything like that, saying that my mom doesn't give me chocolates, or, you know, whatever it is. So
yeah. So then at the same time they also learn responsibility of their actions.
accountability, which is extremely lacking in today's people, of all ages, unfortunately.
Yes.
It would have been easy to say that, oh, today's generation is this and that, but I was today's generation at some point, and I still am whatever I am, right? And
Yes.
every generation has different technologies and different surroundings around them.
Yes.
And, you know,
there is a link from science research, a link between helicopter parenting and then
Okay.
the children not learning accountability. So,
Okay.
so there's actually a link between them. So when helicopter parenting, one of the things that
how would you define helicopter parenting?
Helicopter parenting is something when a parent feels very paranoid about the child's safety and the child's like physical needs and things like that, and so they're like heavily involved in every action the child does in everything.
Right.
It's like almost like a controlling sort of like helicopter is like floating.
Okay.
Hovering above you. Helicopters hover above
Yeah,
you.
I mean, yeah, that's
right?
interesting, because when you first mentioned that, I created a definition in my head, which I wasn't sure about, which is why I asked. But
Yeah.
what I originally thought was, oh, helicopter parenting, maybe it means that they're kind of just passing by the children and not paying attention at all. But it turns out it's the exact opposite
it's
of
the opposite,
that.
yeah.
You're actually hovering over them
Yes.
as long as you can, and almost sort of overprotectiveness, or basically micromanaging
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then not also like they're so they don't want the child to feel sad or feel any negative emotion in anything.
Right.
So to the point where they no longer put in proper boundaries or enforce them anymore.
Oh, right.
Right.
Okay.
So they allow the child to do something, or let's say a child wants a toy that they shouldn't have because let's say the toy is very expensive for the mom or to buy. But then the mom would just like cave in. I'll just get it anyway, just to make him happy.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be expensive. I mean, I think if they are being not negative, but if they're behaving, you know, badly, and maybe they break something or they get angry and throw something, which is a behavior you want to teach them not to repeat.
That's right.
But in that position, I understand. I'm assuming you're talking about the parents looking at that and the child crying about the broken toy and them saying, okay, fine, we'll just get you another kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that would
Spoiling
reinforce that behavior of
That's
you know, throwing things down and breaking them.
Yeah.
That
or,
makes a lot of sense.
Or the child's very obsessed with looking at their phone, but they don't set appropriate boundaries of when they should stop looking at it, and then when they should continue, right? Things like that. So, and then when the child doesn't learn that properly, and then they grow up, and then in the teenager times, and then they started like they're out in the world, right, in school, right, now they have to learn the hard way how things are work, and then some children never learn or not learn or not learn at all. And then so they're not accountable of their actions, right? They do things that you know that against people's not people, but like, you know, wider acceptance sort of you know, boundary, and then they cross them all the time. They do things that could be criminalized. So like, and also so helicopter parent is interesting because it usually manifests in older parents. So older parents, so parents who are already over 30s, and then they start have the child. So the child is very precious because because they will not have any more children anymore. They cannot. Right? When the older you get, the harder to get children, right? So when older parents have children, they are very, very they sort of coddle the child to the point
Right,
because
right.
they feel that if something happened to that child, they cannot get another one anymore, or things like that. So that it's very heavy on people's minds. So, but if the parent is younger in their 20s, helicopter parent is less apparent,
Okay,
and it's also culturally as well. So
okay.
some culture, like Western cultures, more helicopter parenting, and Eastern like Asian cultures are less so, or like West, like for example, South American cultures are less so as well. So like when there's no helicopter parenting, like when my mom, when she was growing up, she can literally my grandmother knew where she was in the general vicinity,
Okay.
right? So but she doesn't know exactly where their children are. She's like, it's around somewhere over there. And
Okay.
then, so my mom could like play it with her brothers, just so she would like roll like a tire, so that they have tires,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then car tire, and then she would roll it with a stick,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then she would roll it
Done that.
all,
Yeah.
yeah, she rolled it all around the streets, and then people know that children are playing around, but then
And it's a very close knit kind of thing as well. Like,
yeah,
doesn't mean you out of the house. That means you're from this family and nobody gives crap about you.
yeah,
Everyone on the street knows each other. Everyone's children is playing together.
yeah, that's right.
Everyone's parents take care of each other's children as well and
Yeah.
their needs as well. And,
Yeah, they're aware of where children are.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say my grandmother like suddenly want to call my mother. Where's my mother? Where's her daughter? And then she can just ask the neighbor like, where did my daughter go?
Someone will
the
have
neighbor
seen
will
her
just
and-
point in the right
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Right. So that allowed my grandmother to have less anxiety, right, about parenting.
Yeah.
So and then also there's more independence for the child to just play naturally.
Yeah.
Right. So helicopter parenting is very difficult because children want to play a lot, and then the parents will not let them play because they don't want the child to feel.
Or they will try to define
injury.
what play is for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So things like that. So yeah, there's big relationship between that control parenting with people growing up not having accountability in their actions, and or online as well.
I think speaking of online and accountability, I think one of the key issues I see these days is that before the widespread level of internet and sort of internet information, I think when a person was, if a person said something completely irrational, illogical, or downright stupid,
or troll,
yeah,
or trolling.
I mean, that wasn't really a thing back then, right?
Right.
It's because you were forced to have accountability when you're face to face with a person, right?
Yeah.
You can't really implement trolling without consequences when you're physically there, because you either know the person and you prank them or something and they laugh it out and you laugh it out, or you don't know the person and you try to prank them and maybe they'll laugh it out or they'll get pissed off at you.
Yeah.
But the consequences are not escapable that easily.
True.
Behind the keyboard and on the internet, I think trolling really becomes super easy because you don't care whether you know the person or not. You can go to whatever level you can with words and videos and messages and audio, and there are guaranteed zero consequences if you have taken care of your anonymity,
That's right.
So I think when before the widespread level of internet, that kind of accountability was already in place without any bypassing. And on top of that, I think when going back to the point of what I was saying, where when someone says something illogical or stupid, people around them, if they don't agree with them, would just tell them that it's wrong or stupid or show them the evidence of why they're wrong.
Or they should make a facial expression.
They will get
do a
some
gesture.
response. Yeah,
some response they
will
shouldn't have said in the first place.
Yeah, so I mean, it's fine to say wrong things. I'm not saying people can't be wrong, but when people were wrong, they would receive feedback from the world around them about the fact that they are wrong about something, or at least that they're not completely right and they should probably look into it further or refine that thought or, think better or think in a slightly different way, look from outside the box. It could be a plethora of different options. But the point is, now when you say something on the internet where you could be completely off the hook, but the problem is because of the widespread level of internet and the accessibility and the number of people on it and how centralized it is in a way, even if you say something and there's going to be literally 50 million people who will disagree with you and tell you how you're wrong with proper evidence, you will probably still find 2,000 people who will agree with you. So in the context of the internet and the people on the internet, it is less than 1% that are agreeing with you. But because now you have access to those fringe group of people from some town somewhere on the other side of the planet where they are agreeing with you, and suddenly you feel validated, the possibility of accountability is out of the window.
Yes.
And now suddenly you have a bunch of people agreeing with you, and it is so easy to censor people that are disagreeing with you, and then, invite and sort of especially invite more and advertise your thoughts in a particular way where only the ones that agree with you combine with you,
right.
And then you completely isolate yourself from everyone else and everything else that can prove you wrong.
Yeah. Because you feel uncomfortable seeing things that
that's a natural thing. But you didn't have a way to escape it before. Right? So you were forced to rethink yourself. You were forced to not do stupid pranks in public because you would literally get hit in the face. Right? I mean, it's happening these days, but it's sort of going full circle in a way.
Right.
But so like that internet and that availability to social media, commenting and tagging and all that kind of things, it just automatically, by definition, takes away accountability.
Yes.
And the more people are living their lives based on the internet, the more they behave like that in real life.
Yeah.
And they don't understand the concept of correcting yourself or the concept of I could be wrong, So it's
those are very important.
And without that, I mean, you can only go so far. And unfortunately, there are people in power out there who have that kind of behavior, or at least they are adopting it from the general public who have that kind of behavior. And so it is quite scary. And
it is, and also like our mind works differently when we're under anonymity. Right. Our social mind actually changes in that moment.
When you have a mask, even in public, in real life, if you have a mask, it makes a difference.
It makes a difference. So negative behaviors are no longer punished.
It doesn't feel like you are doing it. It's like there's at least 2 other people doing the same, so I'm fine.
So you can reason away easily.
Mob mentality.
Exactly. So, and if other people are also anonymous, let's say they're not using their real names. They're using their game names or whatever name they have.
Usernames,
whatever
tags,
usernames.
whatever.
So it's easy to ignore that there's another human being behind that name. Right. So you can just troll them, insult them, do whatever, say whatever they offend them, whatever. But that kind of action it's difficult to track and difficult to punish from like from the platform perspective, right?
And I don't think punishing is really, of course, punishing works in a way. I mean, the main reason why murder doesn't happen is because of the punishments for getting caught doing murder.
It's life imprisonment.
So I mean that's probably the primary reason why there's not murder that much. But punishment has its place, I suppose. But I think when it comes to sort of cyberbullying and things on the internet like that, sort of general public against other general public who are either getting offended or feeling bad or things like that, it's really hard to implement or enforce anything because it's technology, and technology is constantly evolving, and it's always a leapfrog where you find a way to enforce something, then technology bypasses it, and people find a way to bypass that enforcement, and then you find a way to enforce that, and you just keep going one-upping each other essentially. So just anything.
I'm a little optimistic. I have seen like many YouTube comments and some other comments in some social media. People are starting to get smartened up about trolls or like troll-like behavior.
Fair enough. I mean, so they're just out of exposure, I suppose.
I mean, you cannot stop troll. They always come. But then and then the next comment after that is like you're just trolling. Who cares? I don't care about what you say. And then everybody else below that just ignore that comment entirely, right? So that's a way to punish them, so that by being smart.
Because it is essentially attention seeking. So
not giving them
attention seeking, or sort of trying to create a reaction. That's basically where it goes. And so of course, if someone is well versed with the internet, and if someone is exposed to it correctly enough,
Yes.
then they will be able to, bypass the entire thing. It
Yeah,
would
yeah.
literally not affect them at all. I
Yes.
would like to think I have reached a point at this point where, there isn't really much I'm going to get offended by. I mean, usually I'm hosting events or something, and the only offense I'm worried about is someone else feeling bad about something.
Right.
Someone saying something and I'm laughing at it, but I'm usually worried about someone else getting, sad about something, or feeling bad about something, or something hitting home,
Right.
anything
Yeah.
like that. But I definitely believe that, offense cannot be given. It's only taken. It's up to the person who feels offended to choose to feel offended,
Yes.
And so and of course, intention is what matters. Anyone can say anything, and if their intentions are bad, they could use the nicest words, but they would still be bad.
Yes.
If their intentions are good, maybe they don't know English, but they'll probably say something with a heartfelt, good sort of feeling. So yeah, I mean, there's not much we can do when someone else gets offended, but yeah.
I want to touch a little bit on cyberbullying.
Yeah.
It is a big thing for like younger people,
Yeah, of
like
course. I mean,
teenagers and younger
any
people.
age, to be
Any
honest.
age.
But
Yeah, when you're adult, you can
obviously.
sort of ignore it and resist it. But when you're like teenager, for teenage boys or girls, like it can be really really tough for them. So especially now we see generation of children and teenagers that grow up with social media, and with the internet itself, where there can be little consequence. For example, like bullying in school, for example, will be punished by the teacher, let's say.
If found out and
If
stuff.
found out, but
there's
then the teacher usually
chances.
doesn't check the internet. Right, so they can't bully each other on the internet or
absolutely.
messaging each other.
Absolutely.
So and there have been cases, unfortunately, like in Sweden, where I grew up in. There's a lot of cases where teenage girls have taken suicide.
Right.
Because the bully was just too much.
Right.
So they exposed their shame and things like that. Like it can be vicious. Yeah, teenage girls can be vicious to each other, to the point where like they're just afraid to go to school. And then if the children are like in a small town where there's only one school, right, it's difficult to escape from that environment. And so there's been unfortunate cases like that. But at the same time, like that's where more awareness or like, how do I say it? Teaching children not to do that, or protecting yourself against it, it would be very effective. And also like perhaps putting in like incentive strategies in school to stop that kind of behavior, right? And bullying online and offline as well.
I mean, I feel like incentivizing good behavior outside of school can be super nice. Like, for example, having a way for students to nominate nice students which have been nice to them outside of school, for example. Every month or every week you could say 2 students that were nice to you outside of school, and that would really, I think, incentivize students to be nice to each other, especially if they got something out of it. Could be super insignificant for the school to do it, but it can mean a lot to a child. And even, I think, as you say, that would be extrinsic if we talk about chocolates or like money or something. But I think for children, especially children which are literally attention-seeking creatures, like they're built to just do whatever they can to get attention, right? From literally their first breath in the real world. So for someone like that to be brought in front of the classroom and appreciated and everybody clapping for them or something like that can be a huge incentive to behave in that way.
Whatever, they'll feel happy for a long time.
Absolutely.
After being applauded.
Absolutely. And people can get addicted to that kind of thing.
For sure.
Very easily. So I mean, there's so many things people get addicted to these days, with like scrolling videos or literally anything which can give them a little bit of gratification. And that kind of thing for a child can be an absolute gold mine of being able to get attention and being called nice and all that kind of thing. So I mean, that can be pretty
not nice,
powerful.
but like kindness.
Promoting
kindness is
of course
is a better way to think about.
Yeah.
And as well, like, and also if you're cruel, like also teaching that which actions are cruel, right? Like as insulting someone, or shaming them is cruel, for example, or like, and that's not acceptable online or offline, right?
I think on that point, I would say with the right pinch of salt, in the sense that it shouldn't be outlawed to talk negatively about bad behavior or bad actions. Because if someone takes a bad action or behaves in a bad way, they should be obviously told that that's not right. And at the same time, you know, because it's hard to draw that line between don't bully someone and don't shame someone, and at the same time, I think it's really important what it's about, because if someone is calling someone stupid because they're saying the earth is flat, that is different compared to someone calling someone stupid just to make them feel bad. You know?
Yes.
So there needs to be some kind
or short or any other
whatever it is, right? So I think it depends what the subject of the matter is as well, and it's definitely harder to draw the line there. Positive behavior is, I think, in that way easier to reinforce because it's easy to see them usually. Because, you know, it can be about any topic. If it's positive, it's positive. But when it's negative, it's, I think, a bit important to see what it's about, so that you don't discourage someone questioning wrong things. And at the same time, you need to somehow discourage someone just being a troll or being a bully, which involves negative behavior, you know? So I think it's a harder thing to do, but definitely worth doing at an early age. So by parents as well as teachers, guardians, whoever's around children. So
yeah, definitely. And for adults as well, like if you want to adopt a good behavior, like for example, you want to read more books, or you want to lose weight, or you want to, you know, adopt or eat healthier, or you know, or you want to build your business, you know, things like that. Is a good. You have to have good habits, right? And then, but you can also put in like gamification strategy to, let's say, for yourself. Reading. For yourself.
Okay,
let's say for reading, right? So you can reward yourself if you read a certain amount every day, right? Or if you read certain amount of pages, if you read certain number of books per month, right? So you can set up a goal, and then you can sort of set both intrinsic reward and extrinsic reward. So the for myself, right, I enjoy reading because I have I enjoy curiosity, motivation, being intrinsically curious. So I reward myself though when I finish one book, I reward the book that I want to read even more. Right. So I'm all curious of that book. So I sort of jump between the book that I least not as interested versus the book I'm really interested.
Right.
So if I finish reading the book I'm less interested in it, then I might reward myself by
allow
reading,
yourself to get the book that
you like. So basically I'm reading 2 books for my strategy. Or you can, you know, or you can like tell your friend to have an accountability. So like so if I read every day, you could reward me or warn me in certain ways, like so that you can work with your friend or your family member to set up that little incentive for yourself. So these are really good at like forming good habits and a good way of be more productive or more knowledgeable, things like that. So yeah, it works very well.
Cool.
Have you thought about doing something similar, like for something like a good habit?
Yeah,
in
so
your life?
I've done that for a few things. I've done that for sort of cleaning up and stuff in the evenings. I haven't been fully successful, but I'm trying to find ways to incentivize it for myself. Incentivizing wasn't the first thing I went for. I think the first thing I went for was just to try and pop it in my calendar as a regular event. And because I started at some point following my calendar really strictly, or at least paying attention to it a lot. So most of the time I was missing tasks because I was just not remembering them. And so once I started putting them in my calendar, it started to allow me to actually remember them and, you know, at least do them, if not do them in that moment. And so I think
it also allow, because you put it in the calendar itself, it allow you to see as almost like priority within the calendar. Other things in your calendar are important, like your work appointments or meetings, let's say. But then your cleaning is now just as important. Psychologically.
And not only that, it definitely helps with the prioritization, which is, I think, is an extremely difficult thing to do for the mind if the items you're trying to prioritize are just in your mind. But the moment you start laying it out, it becomes really easy to figure out that, oh, I was worried about doing this or this, but they're happening at 2 different times. I can do them both.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I sometimes think that, oh yeah, I'm going to do this for sure. And then I put it in my calendar and say, oh, I already have that there, which is definitely more important.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to cancel it or, defer it for later. So
Yes.
it definitely makes it easier for me to, there's lots of habits and tasks which I should be doing, which I just didn't do because I just didn't prioritize them. I was just stuck with something and just let it overflow into other times.
Yeah.
But the moment I started working through my calendar, it really made it easy for me to make sure I'm stopping things which I like to do, which allowed me to do other things which I usually would miss doing. So
yeah, very, very good. Yeah, so I try to do something similar as well. But for me, like I want to figure out like which things are more urgent and which ones are actually important, right? Because there are some things that just feel I need to do this right now, feel urgent, but actually they're actually not as important. You can just like maybe you're feel afraid of the consequences if you're not doing them, but actually the consequence is actually much later, right? So, but there are some things that are more important that you can do that actually improve the current your living room or your places now.
Yeah.
So like figuring out what is important versus what is urgent is a very important distinction, and it takes practice to see the difference between them.
Yeah.
Because things that are urgent feel more important, but when you really think about it in a more rational way, it's not as important, right? So for myself, like I usually clean once a week, but because I don't usually mess things up, so there's some space for me to clean, or reading or working, and then there's some sudden situation happens. Let's say I can't log into some account anymore, and then I start to feel very like anxious all of a sudden, and very, very But the thing is, but it's not as urgent. It just feel urgent in that moment, right? I can actually take some time
because I think it feels like when you try to do something, it was so taken for granted that you were going to be able to do that simple little thing, which happens always perfectly.
Yeah.
And suddenly your account is blocked and it feels like the world is falling apart. But yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So things like that. So you feel urgent, but you can actually like take some time in and like, oh, okay, it's not that important in the long run. So I could just take my time and then solve it in a more rational way. Because if you suddenly start doing things in an urgent or paranoia type of way, you actually miss, your attention become quite chaotic. So you actually miss things that are actually important, important solutions to that problem.
I think you can sort of get siloed into specific things which you're worried about, but you don't get to see the bigger picture where there are potentially more important things which you might not pay attention to because you're so worried about this little thing here. So
that's right. Yeah. So that's why like when people cannot see the difference between the urgency and importance, that's when people sacrifice like their family time for things that are seemingly urgent from their work, or like they cannot shut off from their work because they feel that they need to do something. They need to reply to their workmates or group chats or things like that, when not really paying attention to the time they should be spending with their loved ones. Right. So creating that boundary between that it's gonna create more balance in your life in general. That's what I found. It's also what's also supported by psychological research as well, to create that system of balance in your life.
Thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you so much for coming today.
So thank you, Ken, and we'll do this more often. And
we will.
Cool.
We'll do it consistently. All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.
See ya.